Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Alpine Odyssey. Today, we are going to go ahead and start filling in some of the larger gaps in between some key points in the Greco-Roman area. So we're going to be working on this side of the staircase, kind of between the Italian restaurant up on top of the plateau and the theater down below. Now, got a lot of comments on the last video saying this, Uthris, you didn't build an amphitheater. Amphitheaters are fully enclosed circles. Well, I'll tell you, I was wrong. So, thanks for correcting me on that. Anyways, so we're gonna start off with some gray boxing and tiling. Everyone's favorite thing. This is kind of my go-to building method for constructing most, if not many, of my builds. Sometimes, such as the theater down there, I'll build it right on location, generally so that it can meet and fixate to the terrain a little bit better. However, for standard kind of, say, scenery items like back in the European section and now here in the Roman area, we can do a little bit more gray boxing. The base kind of idea behind this method is to use a gray rough concrete shape to kind of block in roughly what size you want. Go ahead and make in some tiles so that you can quickly assemble multiple buildings rather quickly. And how often can I say quickly in a video? Goodness sake. And build up an area to your liking with a consistent theme. Now, you can change these tiles in between uses. You can edit them a little bit, tweak them a little bit so that you get some uniqueness in between, but the general blueprint will stay relatively consistent. Here we go. We're actually gonna rotate the pieces into the sunlight so you all can see what we're doing here. First things first, these are based off of some buildings, around Rome, Sicily. Not really Venice, but then again, most kind of Italian architecture's pretty consistent and relatively the same throughout. So you're not going to see too much crazy variation. A lot of them are going to be kind of boxes and or rectangles with windows going up, maybe some balconies as well. I notice almost every single window has at least some sort of ledge underneath of it with either a railing or a wrought iron railing, maybe even a door. They really like, I think, interacting with the outside in some capacity. I don't know if that's because they might be similar to Japan in a sense that they might have less central heating and cooling, and so that they need a good way to interact with the outside or not. I'm just kind of guessing here, you guys. If you guys are from Italy, and I have some Italian friends here following us on the channel, let me know. How often do you guys just rely on opening windows to keep things cool and letting the air kind of flow through your buildings or something like that? To me, that's kind of the purpose behind these, and the railings just kind of provide a little bit of a safety, if not a place to put your planters. So these buildings are going to have an interior. Not on this build. As you guys know, we do interior work generally during live streams. So we're just going to leave this pretty open for now. And we'll come up with some additional details probably on live streams over the next coming weeks and months. So bear with us as things slowly get kind of progressed in Alpine Odyssey at a decent rate. Now, I will say I'm a little bit more comfortable with kind of standard European architecture, more towards kind of medieval, maybe English, French than I am Italian. But we're gonna do our best here. We got a large kind of arch window frame. I'm trying to get some wrought iron through here. I saw that a lot with storefronts down there, is that they'll have generally a large arch doorway, wrought iron up above it to kind of just make it a little bit more fanciful. And I really like that design choice. I will say, with the size of the pieces that we are using, you can see this is a rather pointed archway here, which might bother some of you. It does bother me a little bit as well. but because we will have interiors, I can't really use like the edge of the block to get a rounded arch because it would now be inside the building. And as we put a shop in here or something else, just to get foot traffic to disappear, right? We'll see how it kind of plays out. We might even put a restroom on the other side of the theater, and maybe an ATM or something, just to make people kind of come into this area. Maybe a few sightline spots too, so that, you know, this area doesn't feel completely empty when the park is playing. Granted, the FPS when the park is playing is about 10, so we'll see. Especially once Alpine Odyssey is fully open here on year 195. 195 years worth of construction takes a while. Rome wasn't built in a day, so Alpine Odyssey will not be built in a day, it seems, either. But hopefully we can get some sort of large guest count inside, and I'm thinking eventually performance will kind of just peak at a certain low and kind of remain there, no matter how many more guests are added. I'm hoping for that. We'll find out. Last time we tried it, we got to 12,000, and it got a little crazy, I will say. Roof tiles are going to be similar to the ones from the theater. A little bit of a more fancy overhang with some more wooden kind of pieces there just to separate it out from the building a little bit more. I will say these overhangs are a little shallow, and I might revisit these and make them a little bit longer, just to provide more of a shadow line across the building. To me, that's a really important feature with a lot of architecture. Trying to get your shadows to kind of portray depth to a building and details that we might not get otherwise without it. And shadows not only make them more 3D looking, right? Because it provides that extra line, but it just makes them pop out, right? It's just more of a graphical look in general as well. So general red roofing through here will kind of mess with the back end a little bit. I don't know what I want to do to that back corner to kind of tie it into the theater sitting a little bit more. I think we're going to figure that on this weekend's live stream. We are also not going to touch the other side yet because I kind of want to get your guys' feedback on these structures first before we continue this theme. This is going to be most of the shop themes, the kind of gift shop, food, restaurant theming in this area. So it's going to be important to get it right. And so I definitely want your guys' feedback in the comments down in the doobly-doo, just to bounce ideas off of. This is, again, as much your guys' build as it is mine. This multi-year journey will one day become released, and then you all will get to enjoy the 20-minute load time into Alpine Odyssey with me. It'll be a great experience. Anyways, we got a new tile set going on. We're just expanding, trying to create variation, add depth and interest into each new building we create. I kind of noticed that when looking at references around Italy, is even though the base layout of a lot of y'all structures are relatively the same, right? Just kind of apartment style, just tall vertical rectangles stacked beside of each other. Each individual building has its own character, whether that's the trim color, the color of the stucco and plaster that's going around the building. It creates a uniqueness in all the sameness, if that makes sense. You know, like all the buildings look so similar, and from above the city looks like so much like a repeating red roof pattern, and then you get down to street level, and then you see all this wonderful detail kind of emerge, and each building has its own little take on the overall aesthetic. So that's what we're kind of trying to do here, between adding a little bit of a concrete pillar behind the window set to create kind of these horizontal lines going across the building, with these vertical support pillars going up and down, different window types. So these ones kind of represent, I saw them a little bit. It feels like you all have some shutters instead of windows sometimes. So, or a window shutter combination. It's almost like all just a retractable shutter. I don't know, if they really had those in the olden days. I doubt it, but you have it now, and I like the look of it, so I decided to try and copy that effect over a little bit. Always have to have a plain wall. Definitely helps you fill in those awkward gaps in some of these areas, so I suggest that. Now, this gray box, in my opinion, is a little bit weaker of a design than some of the others, and that's because we are using a half grid, and I kind of didn't know that while building this. So you'll see that the tile set starts to fail on the right side a little bit, so it's going to require a little bit more of a manual touch to fill in the gaps, get it all to jive well together, and that's kind of normal. But for the rest of the building, such as this left side and the verticalness of these windows, it's generally in line with how I want it to be. Now, granted, this center column, I didn't like how it was just going up the side there. To me, it didn't make too much sense, and so we got rid of it, trying to copy across the concrete effect as well. The dark kind of coloration on it, it looked okay. However, I decided to just go with a lighter, pale, kind of yellowish, warm color. That way it's similar to the one down below, but just a lighter variant, and let the green kind of stick out, pop out a little bit more, and become its own feature rather than just like this weird green and purple building. I think it's a little bit more successful with that color palette. Neutral tones. Neutral tones generally is what I'm going for a lot of the times. You can kind of really balance things off of it. Now, the Aztec section, granted, has some neutral tones, but it also has a whole bunch of vibrancy. And, it's good to have that every now and then, such as like in the curtains on the Colosseum back there. That pop of color right over the sandstone texture. Just for some variation. Everything's about variety, reusing tips and tricks, and doing your best in combining them in unique and interesting ways. That's kind of the challenge of any creative building. Again, I think I said this in my City Skylines series, is that I'm not a big fan of repetition, and I really want each building to feel like it's a little bit more unique to the placement, and that's why I kind of get bogged down in that series, is because I spend so much time looking through to find a house, when in reality, if you go down into a suburb, most of the houses look pretty similar. Each kind of suburb section is generally built around the same area, or era, more like it, and will kind of share design choices throughout. So, things like that could save you time if you wanted to, but for me, I just hate repetition so much that I don't do it, or try not to do it at least. You'll find a lot of these side walls don't have windows. That's because they're going to either be right next to another building flush, or they're going to be somewhat obscured by the terrain on where we're going to be placing the building. So I'm not going to bother putting those there. That does save a little bit on part count ahead of time, though I am known to kind of waste part count efficiency just due to not deleting overlapping pieces, such as this roof. We're just copying it over and leaving probably 5 or 6 overlapping pieces, and those things add up throughout the build. So I want to encourage you guys to have a little bit more part count efficiency. I think Silverette does a really good job at that, even though I think he would admit that he doesn't, but I think he does a better job than me, at the very least. So kudos to him for that. Here, realizing the left and the right side of the building aren't on the same grid line. Didn't really do a good job at lining those up, so we're going to have to kind of rebuild a little bit of the side walls to make them jive. Add in some windows. I'm going to center set this window on the opposite side. I think that technically looks better for this tower-like jut going vertically. I didn't do it on the front side. It's kind of there. I like the asymmetry of the front side, and you know, the less windows you have kind of implies there's more wall space for like shelving, storage, and other things. Maybe there's a staircase right there, and it would be weird if there was windows on it. I don't know. A lot of these interiors are kind of blocked off, and you don't always see the whole thing. So you just have to kind of make it up a little bit as you go, just to make the building function. The right side will also have a balcony, kind of viewing deck area. We'll probably put some chairs and tables up there as well, just to kind of detail that out a little bit more. Here, just moving the window over the door directly. I think that kind of makes the right side a little bit more of a balanced composition, even though it's still asymmetrical. It's just a little bit more balanced. And the asymmetry is one of those things where you have to try real hard to balance it between, you know, looking asymmetric but still looking good. That's something I usually struggle with a little bit, I find. So you guys are hopefully taking some notes. Maybe I should start assigning homework for these videos. You know, hey, go build us a building in these kind of grid aspects and show me what you got. I think that would be a cool little thing to do. I don't know. Challenges? I never thought about doing something like that, but it might be an interesting idea. Maybe you guys can let me know if you want to do that for the channel as well. And maybe we can do like a weekly challenge video type of deal. Let's see, some roof trim just to kind of tie this to the building a little bit more. Noticing my roof is net center. That's a problem. Always got to try and fix that. Very similar to a temple roof, kind of a heavy A-frame structure with large supporting columns, just because they haven't really rediscovered the dome, especially in the Renaissance era. Like if you go around Florence, you can see the Duomo, which is a very famous cathedral, and it has a egg-shaped kind of dome rather than a perfectly round dome like they would back in the Roman years. So just little interesting tidbits how technology can get lost sometimes, such as like stained glass and stuff. Anyways, I think that's enough of a rambly episode. I'm gonna go ahead and try and get the building a little bit more grounded, and then we will jump into the real time, take a look, see what you guys think of it matching into the area. I think it's starting to fill in the Roman area, and whenever you start a new area and you just open up this blank slate, it becomes a little overwhelming. So it's just starting to get there, and I'm enjoying the process. So let's head over to real time. You guys can take a look and let me know what you think. All right, here we are. Take a look at the left side of the main staircase that kind of controls traffic from the upper plateau to the lower plateau. I know a lot of you might comment on the wheelchair accessibility ramps and things like that. We do have them in other areas of the park. I'm still thinking about where I want to place that item. We could explain it away by saying there's an elevator in one of these buildings, since they do span the whole distance, and say that, you know, they just go inside one of the buildings, take an elevator down, and then they emerge. We've done that in the European section by the bar, I think. There's a bit of an area like that. I'm not overly excited about that, just because I feel like those ramps and other features is an opportunity to do some landscaping, right? Because you're stuck with this winding path. It's a good way to put in some nice fanciful objects. I am thinking about doing that maybe back here and having the path come behind these buildings and maybe out an alleyway. I think that might be a cool little journey for folks. I mean, shoot, I would take that path. It would look cool. I like me some cool, dank alleyways. We got a little bit of flowers going up here. This is a little bit of a drainage ditch for rain and things. So a little bit of extra flower life going up through here. I didn't want to go too crazy with the overall details. These buildings, pretty plain, simplistic, unlike the European section where we do a lot of cross members out of wood and other things like that. I feel like it's kind of necessary to leave these just kind of plain stucco buildings and let the windows kind of do most of the work for the details. The archway, it does have like a metal gate that could potentially swing closed all the way. I'm not overly excited about this design, but I don't know, it could be something we change eventually. I'm pretty happy with the wrought iron. We're using the Planet Coaster fence for this, and just getting those swirls up through here makes it look pretty dang sweet. I might lower this arch by like a little bit, just so it gets a little bit more round. It does bug me ever so much. Up here, another entryway into another potential shop space. The nice thing about the plain kind of exterior walls is that we have a lot of interior here to work with when we do add shops. So that's going to be pretty cool to see. Of course, we'll try and put the windows on the inside as well so that they become visible. We're going to have to probably fake wall to about this point. That's pretty normal when you do interiors in Planet Coaster, but you know, I'm not going to do any Italian frescoes, I don't think, on the walls. I don't have the time. We got upper balcony space as well. If this ends up being some sort of food shop, we can put some chairs and tables up here. We might do that anyways. We do have the designs for them. Back here, you know, just some simple garden-esque areas. People aren't really going to come back here, but from the top-down view that we spend most of our time in Planet Coaster, it is definitely a nice thing to see. And that's about it. So I think it's tying in the area pretty well, especially from above. It's starting to feel a little bit more fleshed in. When we get this side done, it'll keep adding to it, and I might even add some smaller buildings through here. If you go to Google Earth and you take a top-down view of some of the Italian cities, I kind of want to mimic that a little bit in their grid layout and stuff. You get some really cool roofline and skyline shots whenever I go there. So that's going to be kind of the main challenge of this part, and it'll help just make this a little bit more dense. The beginning of it's pretty open and not overly busy in any way, which can be a good thing. It also can be a bad thing. So hopefully we can get some more balance with more stuff. Anyways, I think that's about it for this episode of Planet Coaster. If you guys enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like. Leave a comment down below on what items you want to see in the park as we progress. Hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for more creative goodness such as this. And I will see you all in the next video.